Hey there, I hope you guys are doing well. Today we'll be building something epic, an offline first AI chat app using React and Ollama powered by open source LLMs. If you ever wanted to take your AI projects to the next level, this is the perfect starting point. Don't miss this will be too much fun. But before we dive in, don't forget to like this video and subscribe and share, and follow our Level Dev YouTube channel for more game changing dev tutorials like this. So let's get started. Give you a quick demo on what we are going to build so that you get an idea. As you can see, I'm running the app locally and this is the interface where you will land. You have the ability to select any locally installed models which will be listed down as drop down. You can view the selected model details, update the model parameter settings. We have a nav for navigating between chats. You will be seeing a chat history. Once you click on plus, it will start a new chat session where you'll be able to interact with AI. You can ask queries using the chat input. So I'm typing a query here. So even if the app is online, based on the selected model and its settings, the AI will be able to respond. You don't need an internet connection for this. Also, we have a dark and light mode switcher. Let me show you what happens when we change the model. So I'm typing a quick query here. In this chat with Pythagoras theorem. Also, you can switch between the different chats, and you can see I've selected llama as my default. So if I select 5.3 latest now and ask the AI the same question, let's see what it does. So 5.3 is a model by Microsoft. So it definitely is good enough to write any code also. So it's giving code for me in Python right now. Let's ask it in JavaScript. So overall, you got an idea of the project on what we are trying to build here. It's basically a ChatGPT clone that runs without any internet connection directly in your laptop. Yes, it's completely free. No connections to outside world, entirely private and privacy ensured. So what are the requirements for building this app? You need browser, Node.js, Ollama, and LLMs. You need to install locally. If you don't have that, you can watch my previous video on how to set up Ollama and local LLMs. I'll be using VS Code editor, but you can choose any that you prefer, cursor or anything. Then the tech stack, we will be using White, React, Tailwind, TypeScript, Shade, CN, Lottie, Ollama. And so what are the features that you should expect in this particular version? So this entire video that you will be seeing, it's like the version 1. So since it's the first version, we will be focusing on the following features. I'll be sharing the features roadmap for the next feature, like next version soon, in the description of this video. So we'll be looking most of the features that I demoed uh, with step-by-step instructions on how you can build. So you just have to follow along the tutorial, watch till the end, and share your feedback. If any doubts, do drop a comment in this video. I'll be happy to help. So you can use this resource for any uh, for your local setup, Ollama setup. So it has the tutorial link for your reference and all the necessary information. So yeah, so let's get started with our coding. Will do npm install. So once all the dependencies are installed, we'll run our dev command and it will run the local frontend at 5173. So as you can see, we have the project running up, and we will start with Tailwind CSS now. So let's go to Google and type Tailwind CSS, right? So it will open the docs for how to set up using White. We'll just install the packages. Let's copy that. Let's create it a new terminal and paste that. So all the Tailwind CSS dependencies will be installed. Then we can initiate the Tailwind CSS project by this command. It will create the Tailwind and post CSS config. Then we need to manipulate the config according to this. So let's open our VS Code. So I'm in post CSS config, updated that, and let's run that. So it will update that project and we can see the changes. So now Tailwind CSS is being used. You can see the changes. Let's now add ShardCN. So ShardCN UI is React library, component library. So we'll be using it. So let's head to the doc section. Go to White. We'll install the. So actually we already installed Tailwind and configured it. So let's do some more configuration. So we'll head over to our config and update the content, and in our JSON we will update the compiler options. in our tsconfig.json. Let's do that. We also need the base URL and the paths, the compiler option. So we'll head over to tsconfig app.json and do that. Also, we need to update white config. We need types for node. So let's install that dependency. And copy this code into a new file, whiteconfig.tss, or if you have existing, we can update that as well. So I'll head over to whiteconfig.tss, update this code, remove this. We'll install the chatcn command that will be being used to initialize the chatcn project in this repo. We'll select new yoke. I'll select zinc, CSS variables, yes. Now it will install the dependencies. As you can see, it created a lib folder, which is here. We'll add a button component. Let's go to which you can find in components, by the way. So I'll copy this command and paste this. Now button.tsx will be there. We can import the button like this in our app.tsx. Let's paste this, copy this code, and we'll update it here. Save it. We'll say chatcn button. Save. Now you can see a button in this front end, right? So we have installed chatcn. We have many components that you can check it out, like the accordion, like the card, and many other components are there for your reference. It's pretty cool. I love it. Next, we will start building our app interface. We'll start with our sidebar UI. So you can see this code, right? We don't need this actually. I'll remove this. I'll remove this imports as well. Then I'll import. I don't need this as well. But for now, let's keep it. In our app component, as you can see now, it's empty. So I'll just search sidebar. So this is the sidebar component. We can copy it like this. Add the command. It will install sidebar in our components UI folder. So it says button already exists. Would you like to overwrite? I would say no, because we can use the same one. Okay, so we got our sidebar. So in this we have some CSS. So let's go to app.css. We'll delete this. We don't need this. So we'll go to, we need sidebar provider, container, footer, scrollable content. So we'll import this in our app. So I'll just import it here. Let's create sidebar provider. Then I'll create a div for the sidebar. So go to, we need app sidebar main, so I'll copy this and paste it. So let's create a new file, app sidebar.tsx, for the sidebar component. I'll copy this, paste it. I'll say variant floating. Sidebar header will create a border with some padding. So I'll create a button of variant outline with size icon and some styling. So we will import a home icon from Lucid React and give it a size of 4 and width 4, and when it will be dark the text will be white. So this will be our home, and we need one more button. So we will say plus icon. This will be our start new session button. So same wait for, and this is for screen reader, new chat session. Because we are not giving any text, so I've added screen reader. So let's say this is our sidebar header. So in content, we'll give some margin and we'll import sidebar menu. So we'll start creating our sidebar menu. So first will be the history. So we'll create a sidebar menu item and a sidebar menu button. In this we'll say import sidebar menu item and button. Then we'll say next item center. We'll import message icon, that will be this, and we are using, by the way, so we are using VS Code, and in the last video I might have shown you how to use continue. So it's all AI completion by continue. So if you see completion here, it's all coming from there. So yeah, import drop down menu, and we need drop down content, menu item, trigger, from components. I know we haven't imported, so we have to import it using shardcn. So we'll add it in our UI components folder and import it. Then here we'll have to create a trigger, and then inside this trigger I'll just use tab. So whatever it's suggesting is what we need actually. So rename, I'll just say more options, rename, and delete. So this will be the chat and then some options for rename and delete. So we have sidebar group as twice. Let's check. We have to create the sidebar footer. We'll add a span with the text built by Explorer, or say sujaykund.com with my link, target blank, and rel no regular with class name and Sujay Kundu. Right, so this is done. Then we'll say sidebar menu, sidebar item, and we'll say sidebar menu button as child. So this will be a button of variant outline with width full, and on click we gonna I need a settings button. So let's say we'll import settings icon and we'll import that icon over here like this. So this will be our spanrel settings, right? So that's, I think it's all done. And we do export default app sidebar so that we can import it in our app.tsx. So let's do that. Let's import our app sidebar. So app sidebar, now it's complete. We don't need the children. Instead of that, just, I don't think we need it, so we'll delete it. And now let's say we need an inset so that it will separate our sidebar with main. So we'll create a sidebar inset and a header. So in this header we'll add sidebar trigger. It will go here. So basically the trigger will be outside of the sidebar in the top bar, and we'll add a button that says drawer to toggle that sidebar. So I'll say goes icon, and this button will be the trigger. So let's import icon and the button. So I'll say chevron left will be good. We don't need the fragment, so I'll delete this or just say div. And when we click on that chevron, it will transform. So we'll create a new state, left sidebar open, and set is left sidebar open. See true. We need use state, we don't need button. So let's create a toggle state. And when we click on the icon or the sidebar trigger, we'll say toggle left sidebar. In this we'll say when chevron left is sidebar is open, we'll rotate it to 180 if that is false, right? So yeah, I think that is good. Let's see. So we have this button, we have the toggle, We have a settings, home page, and new button. Sidebar is looking good. Few places it might be to change colors. Right. So let's say sidebar menu button, right? So in this we'll add a class of width full with justify between and background white and dark sync. Let's say background sync 900, right? So text should be white and on hover background 100, and it should be round and some spacing. So this looks fine. Now you can see the button is right side. More options, but it looks black, right? So we'll say more vertical icon and put it inside the button. So it will show the 3 dots for the menu options. Just add some left outline, none. Border 0 and background white with dark zinc 8 or 900 with hover. Border 0, focus outline none. Focus border 0. So border white. So now it looks good, right? So there's no dark background and looks clean. So same thing we will be doing for our icon. Let's go to app.tsx, and this is the button for our trigger, right? So we have added transition, ghost icon, white, zinc. We'll add text black, but we need for dark version, right? So like it's already black, so we need a background. Let's say we'll say dark text white, and normally it should be not a ghost actually. So we'll fix this. We'll make it text white. Something is wrong. Let's say background white. Nope. I think something is wrong with the button only. Let's see. Let's go to sidebar trigger. I think this is the button that is the trigger. Yeah, as you can see, this is a ghost button. Let's turn it to outline. Save it. Yeah, it was the reason. The button itself, which is provided by StatScene, is turning ghost and overriding the styles. So now this is fine. We'll add some text that says Ollama AI chart. Now let's start the server again. We need to add a drop down. So we'll add select component. Once it's installed, we can go to the components file and say app model select. Here we will write the code for drop down, which will be our model. Like basically you can select the model, right? So in select, whatever we have, we'll just copy paste, return, model select, return, export default modal select. Here we will import app modal select from components modal select. We'll use this app modal here. Now we have dark, light. So we'll group them using model. So I've created select group with some label and items. Now you can see we have some dummy llama. Now I'll create a new service, called Ollama.ts. Here we'll write all the APIs that we're calling to Ollama. So first API will be get models. So I'll just have 10 second. We need to add a API URL. So we'll replace this API with a constant, and this is the API result as you can see in Postman when I'm hitting. So basically your Ollama should be running. If you haven't watched the previous video, do check it out. You'll get to know how to set up Ollama locally. So I'll import this get models API and use a use effect, set all models array, and this set all models. When we will load the component, first time it will call the API to fetch all the models. It will fetch all the models and set into all models like this. So all models, now we will be able to loop it or just log it here. Let's see, we can log into our console. We can see we have all these models that are installed locally, and Llama 3.1 deep SQL code and 5. So let's create an interface called name, description, modify that, size, digest, details. So these are all what I'm referring to the response. So you can add whatever you need. So for the sake, I'm just adding all the interface thing which is I'm getting right now from the API. So quantization level. So we'll use this model interface right here, and let's create a new folder called types. Inside that we'll create a model.ts. I'll move this interface to the model.ts file. I'll just export it and import it from here. So once it will work same. So now we have a model. So now selected model, right? When we click on it, we should have a selected model. So I'll add selected model state by null default, right? And here, once we get all the models, if all models dot length is greater than 0, then we will select the first model, that will be the 0th index, default model, right? So initially it will select the first model by default if you haven't selected one. So I'll say in the models component we'll pass models data, and we will add props to the model select as models data. That will be the model array. We'll import the model interface again. I think something is wrong here. Oh, okay, I got it. It should be colon. Now we'll say interface app model select. This will go here. We'll just delete this, and say app model select. So once here got models data, what else we need? So once you select it, we can loop it, loop the models like this. So for every model item, we'll create a select item with the name and the value, right? So let's Set. Now you can see all the data along with the dummy data it's coming. So we'll select first one, it is tick mark. We don't need this, we'll comment this. Let's say this sidebar, sorry, this drop down is of width 200 pixel with some margin. So this looks fine, and we'll create a label, call it model. We'll add ID for model and with 180 pixel for the drop down. So ID it's not taking, let it here. Right, so class name also it won't take, I guess. We don't need this, save it. So now we have 180 pixel for the select. We'll say on value change, when you select we should be getting the result and saving it into state, right? So we'll say console log model change. So when we select, this should be logged. Let's see. Set px4. So now this looks fine. When I'm selecting llama, I can see model changed. It tweaked twice. Triggers. So it's working. So we need to create the function that now we need to pass that as well. So let's say we'll pass the selected model, and on change here there will be a state that will handle it. So we'll pass selected model and set selected model. Here let's say set selected model. So now we are getting that selected model that's add into our interface as well. So yeah, so instead of log we'll say set selected model, but we need to pass in the model, so it needs to be a string, right? So we need the target value actually. So let's say set selected. So we'll handle a new function on model change. So it will find the data of the model that we selected and then select that particular model into the state, right? So that's fine. So now we have selected state model. Now let's say we need to log the selected model. So I'll use a use effect. Let's say what we get. Once we select deep coder, we got this model object, right? So it's working fine. So now let's go to what we have to do is we'll just delete this, make the props read only. Okay, let me make it read only, and then delete this. So we'll select llama. Now let's create a new component, app theme toggle. So this will be our dark mode and light mode switcher. So we'll create a new theme folder inside this. Let's say theme provider.tsx. We'll create a import So inside this theme provider, we'll create a theme. So first, let's create initial state with system, and that will be having a set theme. We'll create an interface that will take in a children, theme provider props, and a state that will have a theme as string and set theme. So by default we'll have dark, light and system modes. Theme point. So we'll have null. So this was the theme provider state. So now let's create our theme provider context. We'll use create context, theme provider state, initial state. So this create context will save a theme throughout our app. So this context, we will be setting this in our provider. So let's create this provider. We'll create a default theme and we'll create a key. Let's say theme, or say Ollama AI chat theme. So based on the storage key, we will be checking which theme it is. So let's say we'll have a set theme. Let's set the theme. We'll use local storage to get the theme from the storage using the storage key, and we'll set a value for our new theme in the same storage using the storage key. Then we'll return our theme provider with the value and the props. So here we'll add props. That's it. So we'll have a use effect. Let's import that. Now the theme is changed. Let's go to the window and check the document element, remove the class, and if theme is system, then use the match media. Let's fix this using continuous AI. So what it says is use memo. Okay, cool, will import use memo. Now that is done. So it has a missing dependency. We'll use storage key. But we need use context. Yep. So let's create a use theme. We'll use context. If no theme is provided or no context is found, this theme provider will throw an error. This hook will throw an error if no. So once we have this theme provider ready, we can import this as in our app.tsx. So let's enclose our app with this theme provider with the system as default, and whatever with the name we gave, right? That storage. Let's see what we gave. Where it went. Storage key. Yeah, this one. We need to copy this, and this will be passed from here, right? So that will be the string that we will be passing. So theme provider is done.
we can select the model now, and theme is black now, as you can see. Because I think my system is in our app theme toggle. Let's create our component. So we will have a theme. We have to import, use theme from our provider. Then we will use that theme as hook. So this set theme function's job is to set dark mode and light mode. So we will use moon and sun for displaying dark and light. We'll import a button. So we'll import app theme modal from our app theme toggle, and we will call it here in the top bar. So as you can see, we have a button with toggle theme. So inside this, we need a drop down menu for showing light and dark. Let's import that. So we then close this drop down with menu trigger as child. There will be a button. Let's see, ghost, and then when you click that button, we'll have a sun and moon that we will switch based on the theme. So now you can see we have 3 items in the drop down: light, dark, system. When we click on light, it is toggling to light mode, and let's give some class to make it better. Yeah, that is looking great. Model is done, theme is done, dark mode, cool. So let's go back now to our app.tsx. Let's see, flex grow. Then this will be our basically main, whatever we'll see below, right? So let's now go to a React router. We need to display the route. So we'll use React router. Let's go to docs. Let's go to library, React router. Let's copy this, and we need to call import browser router and use like this. So for white, we have this router. So paste it, enter, installed, clear. Then we will import browser router in our main.tsx. We then close our app with browser router. So we need routes, right? So where should we display? Where we are displaying welcome, we will be using our route. So let's call the routes here. We'll say / we will create a new component, app start new session.tsx. So in this we'll create our home component. Whenever you will enter this new session, it will show this component. So export default start new session. we'll import this app start new session from our components app start new session. We'll import this app start new session not here in this route, right? So this will be the component that will be rendered on path/home. So as you can see, welcome is coming. If I refresh, something got causing issue. I think I renamed. Yeah, now it should be fine. Let's see. Yeah, I just added height full, width full. So this should be in the center now. Your offline AI assistant. Right, so this will be the message that you will see. And so start new session to begin chatting with your AI assistant. So yeah, that looks cool. So let's import a button for our new session. Just create a button, then add this button below, variant outline. So on click of this button, we will start a new session. So for now, let's do some, let's not use it, or maybe like console log, but yeah. So we'll import an icon for button and say start new session. Like this. Yep. So now you can see start new session and start a new session to begin chatting. Cool. So in dark mode also it looks cool. So whenever the user lands on a new chat, it should open it. So now let's add an animation. I'm thinking of something AI types. So I'll go to Lottie files and go to gradient, and I think this is cool. Let's use this. So I'll change this a bit. I'll download this. Once the animation is ready, we can download the JSON, and I've copied this JSON into Lottie's assets folder, and let's paste this AI.json, right? So let's go to Lottie React. Here we will be using Lottie React package for loading our Lottie JSON. So copy this, head over to the GitHub repo of Lottie React. So this is the repo. So here you can find the command yarn add if you're using yarn, npm if you're using npm. So we're using npm. So let's paste this. So once we are done, we have to import our JSON with the Lottie React and pass the JSON to the Lottie component. But here we will use the use Lottie. So once we will have to load our Lottie JSON, which is in assets Lottie's folder. AI.json, and this we have to pass in as an options. So we'll create an options object and pass it to the hook. So let's do that. Create options animation data. So this is AI thinking. Let's give it a AI thinking name. Loop true. So it will loop and will pass in the view in the top like this. So let's do that. Now let's save it. Let's see. Okay, cool. We got a cool animation that you can see, right? It's very big, but so we have to make it a little small. So let's go to the dog and see if we can style this animation. So I can pass in a style object which will have the height and the width kind of thing. So let's do that. So when options will have style. Let's wait. If I go to the interface, I can search style or height where we can pass in. So in the hook itself, we can pass in as an object, right? So in the hook, use lot-t, which is in this options. I think we can pass comma the style, which will be an object basically. It is a React CSS property, so we can pass height and width like this. We don't need the style key, it's just an object, so we'll remove that. So yeah, it looks cool. 200, let's make it a bit bigger. 400, yeah, this looks great. So now let's create one more route. This will be for our chat sessions. So let's say chat 123 or the session ID of that chat, and we will create a new component for our chat, right? So let's do that. Let's go to our components folder, create a new file, app chat session.tsx. So here we will create a new component for our chats where we will have a div with height full. This is a chat session area, right? So export default chat session, right? So we'll import this chat session component in our app.tsx. We'll pass the component like this. So now whenever we go to new start session, right, it should go to chat slash whatever 1 2 3. Let's see, he will create a link, right? So we will create a new link. So when we click on the start new chat or this particular navbar button in the sidebar, so we will click new chat and then we will handle new session. So this function will be responsible for moving it to the particular chat window. So we'll import that as props. Let's see, app sidebar props will create that interface. Done. So now app sidebar props handle new session is done. We will go to app.tsx. It's throwing error, right? We need to pass handle new session. So this function we have to create it now. So we'll say start new session, our function name, and this we will create here, declare here. So let's say we log it, like whenever we click start new session, it should log start new session, right? Save it. And once we have it, we will navigate it. So we'll use navigate from the router, and we'll create a navigate dot navigate, so directly to the chat URL. So in our case, session ID is dynamic, so we need to create a dynamic session ID. For now I'm giving 1234. So basically when you click on this, it should navigate to chat 1234. So in app start new session component, we'll pass in the on click function so that the start new session button also works. We pass into the app start new function, right? So like this. So when we click on this, it should redirect to slash chat 1234. We press back to home, we click on plus, it will again redirect to 1234. So we'll create a flex box where everything will be centered. We'll say chat sessions. So here we will say this is a chat message, you can type here, so you can see it appearing, but we don't need that. We don't need this. Let's see, we will create a session ID 1234, right? So chat session ID. So I'm looking for scroll. So when we will be chatting, we need a scroll bar. So let's install that scroll area from .cn. We'll got the component. Let's import that. So scroll area, let's say give a class grow and a padding of 4 and 2. And we'll align everything to center. And say chat. Instead of chat session, what we can see is we'll directly load the conversation here. All the conversation, all the chats will be going here. Now let's create a span, or what can I help you with today, right? So this looks okay. We'll give it full, so it will take the entire space. So it's looking good now. We'll use a AI icon We'll say sparkles from Lucid. We'll import that as well. Let's say sparkles. Right, so this will have width of 6. It will be a blue color. Right. Let's now create a dummy messages array. So what we need is, in this messages we'll have a role and content. Let's say assistant, and we'll be a user. So assistant is the bot, user is what we will type. So there's like this conversation going on. So we'll type like we will loop this conversation using a message. We'll display the content and align it based on the uh, type, or you can say role. So let's say if the message role is user, we will align it to right, otherwise it will be left. So assistant will be left, user will be right. So let's now create so if the role is user and we need a border for that conversation, so I'll just add blue and create basically for the user and the assistant message. And if the role is user, we will say you or assistant, right? And then we'll show the content. So in this box, you will be user, assistant will be the bot, and the content, and we'll trim this content. So let's see how it looks. Assistant, user, so we'll import a user round and a bot icon. So I'm going to replace this U and assistant with this icons. So as you can see, now assistant and bot has an icon. I will comment this text, so only icons will show. Yeah, now it is fine. Now what we need to do is we'll just align this a bit. So this message content should be in one line. So let's say paragraph. It will be in a new line. Let's create a input field now for the user to type, right? So I'll create a form with action and submit. So on submit, it will take handle submit. So we have flex with black background. It will be rounded. I'll create a submit button. with outline. And let's say we have this button. So when we enter, this should submit the form, right? Like input whatever we enter the text. So this is submit button. Now we will create send. So send icon we can remove and replace it with arrow up. We'll create handle submit function. Create the input. Let's create input state to handle our input. Use state replace string. Let's import use state. So once we have this set input, what we can do is we can pass the value as input, and on change we can set target. Pass something. Give the class so whenever we focus we are giving outline, the default outline, and we're adding our own ring with a blue color with border transparent. And on change now it will take the event and pass it as set input in our state, right? So input is the value that it will store. We have to import input UI component from chat.cn. It's input, that is fine. So we have input ask something with a button submit decent, right? So now send. So what we need to do is we can see what is happening. I'll go to console and enter hi, how are you? We'll see submit is getting consoled. So we'll also take the user input. Let's see. So now we can see how are you? We'll change that to dark and try something is off with submit button. Let's me fix it. Text is white and let's maybe find red gray text white. Now it looks fine, right? So this is all worked up. I messed up with light state text. So text 800 dark white. Let's see. I think I have to add. So we'll add a hover effect. Whenever we hover, it is showing white, but we need black, right? So let's say on hover normal, we'll make it black. And in our submit, we'll add async form event and prevent default. We will use the input message, whatever user input using input.rem. And if nothing return, and then set the default input, which is empty string, into the input state. So now everything looks good. So we have start new session. We will create a new chat session. We'll create this function soon. So now I'll pass the selected model to this function. Let's create a state session, new session, use state. Well, do we need the session? But let's see. So we'll create this interface session. We'll have a messages created at, updated at, title, model if necessary, and message will have a role, user, assistant, and system with content. So this interface will use in our new session state. Basically, we might need to shift it somewhere else, not in here, because we might not need to. So we'll use this new session and set the session, new session. This new session can be renamed with new session, set session, and this interface will move it to types folder. We'll create a new file called session.ts, and we already are using it. So save it here, and we'll add more details to it. So once we have this types done, we will import it from the sessions, session types. This session, what we have in our state, we need to create the interface. Sorry, we have to create the API to handle the session. So we'll use local storage as our local DB for now. Yeah, I know we will improvise with time in the next versions for sure. But for now, we'll use local storage. I'm creating a random session ID on new chat session. So we'll have to install UUID package. So let's do that. npm install UUID. Import the UUID package and use session data. With session ID and messages, we'll import the type of the session and created at, we'll give new date to ISO string, updated new date to ISO string, right? And model, whichever selected model, but we are asking it as string. So this is title chat, right? So we'll create this object whenever a new session is created. We'll save the new session data, like whatever we have, into our local storage by passing the session ID and the session data, right? So we'll create a common function to do that. So let's say we have sessions which we will parse from our local storage. First we need to find the sessions object in our local storage. So we need a key, right, to find that in our local storage. So we'll use Ollama chat sessions, our storage key, to find the local storage object, and then we will get all the sessions. Inside that session ID will be the object that we are looking for with the key. So this object, once we get it, we will set the data in that particular object, and we will save it as string. So we have done. Create new chat session. So we will import this. Say, if our sessions, copy this, import this here. Right. So once we have this done, we need to pass the model. No, it is not cyber. Okay, it is taking model. We are passing a string. So we need to change this to model or null. Basically. So model layout done. So if selected, so we need to pass in string, right? So we'll get the name of the model that we selected. Pass it here like this. So this we need to fix it by giving let's say model or null. I think we are missing something, but if model is selected, let's see, it will automatically take it, right? So now this 1 2 3 4, we need to change this to a dynamic thing. So we'll use new session, whatever we created using UUID, that will be the chat session ID. So it will navigate to the new session page. With navigate, copy the start new session. Go to local storage, you can find the key, right? So using that storage, you find the objects. Here you can see I have my session ID 95, which has all this data. So we will use effect hook to when the session ID changes, right? So whenever the chat session, I mean, like we need to grab the conversations based on the session ID. So what we need to do is we need to create a session state. Like this, we don't this. We need to get the session ID from params, from the route, right? So what we'll do is we import use params from router, get the params, pass the params, whatever we are getting in session ID. So if the session ID exists, then we will say session ID is there, right? If current session, so we'll get this from local storage, the current session based on the session ID. So we'll check if the current session already exists in local storage, fetch that session, right? So this function, we will go to sessions.tsx and create our get function. So let's say this is the same exact code that we need. Sessions, we will fetch, and then we will parse, sorry, we will go to the sessions object and get the session ID key objects. So we'll import this. If there's current session, then log the current session. Set the session, else say no since no session found. Right? Then redirect to home if no session found. Let's say window.location. The href will point to home. Right? So this entire thing session, let's see. So if I go to the current session with my session ID, you can see messages is empty. If I reload current session, so let's say if I'm going to non-existing session, I'll go to home page, it will navigate it. Right? Otherwise it will load the conversation. So you enter the correct session ID. So we'll create a new messages array where we will use the messages once we have this initial message. So we will use this interface to load our message array, and this interface we might need to, so let's say we will get the current session messages. So from session messages equal to messages, and then we will set the messages in this set state, right? Because we need to loop that messages in our chat session. So if we say length is greater than 0 of the messages, then set the messages as set messages with initial messages. Right, so we'll create a new message with assistant and content. Hello, how can I assist you today? Then once we have this message, we will, like for example, if it's a new chat, right? So first message will be this, and then we will update our chat sessions in our local storage. So we'll create a update chat session messages. A new message. So basically it will append the new messages. So we'll create a new export function update chat session messages with the session ID new message, and then we will get it from our local storage. We can use grab current session using session ID from local storage. Once you have the session data, if not there, then we will throw the error session ID with ID session ID not found. Once we have the messages, we will push to the state like new messages array, and we will add created and updated at with the ISO string. And then once we update it, we need to save it in our local storage again. So we will create a save session storage. So save session to local storage. So I think we don't need this object. From here we can directly say, let's remove this. So initial messages will be there, but below whatever we are using, we'll delete that and say new messages is equal to initial messages of first object, right, in that array. So we'll delete this and pass new message like this. So once we have the session ID, we can display it like this. Then we will add the title of the session. So I've added the session title. So now we can loop the messages, right? So if I go to inspect element, go to application, and check the session that we are in, that is B0 messages. Here you can see the first initial message, right? So yeah. So you can see the session ID. Right, the dollar is coming. Let me remove that. We don't need the dollar. Now we have the chat, session ID, everything is looking fine. So what we're gonna do is, if input message then we is not equal to empty string and session ID, then we'll create a is loading state that will be boolean. We'll start is loading as true, then we will set the user message. So we'll set the user message in the messages state and session array. So the user message will be having role as user, content as our input message. Then we will create like we will set the latest message in this messages array. We'll create a shallow object for the messages. And then push our new messages with the old messages. So when we spread it, it created a new array with the old and new. We're gonna be updating the new messages array to the session messages. Let's log the messages. We can delete this. Let me show that. So now if I go to console and say hello, how are you? So you can see hello, how are you? New messages array. We have assistant as well as the user message. Now if we go back to our local storage sessions, B0. In that you can see two messages. Hello, how are you? Right. So the history is getting saved. Let's remove this. We'll go to our Ollama service. Here we will say we'll call the Ollama chat API. We'll pass in the selected model as the string and our messages array. And we'll say fetch Ollama API URL /chat. So this is our chat endpoint. We will have to create a post request with content type as application JSON. We'll pass in the body by stringifying our messages and model. And also we can say stream as true. So this API will take stream as true to give stream responses basically. And then we can log our console like chat response. We can do it in console. Yeah, let's import the messages type. Message type. That's it. So let's go to Postman and call our chat API once. So that will pass in model messages and selected model messages, right? And send. So we got, see, you can see it's streaming, right? So the response is loading. So we got this particular response with all the streamed data. So we'll say stream as false. Let's make it string. Send. Now you don't have a stream response, you get the final response as content. So yeah, we're gonna be using this API. We get the response, and what we'll do is we'll make it false. We'll say get chat response. And we will import get chat response from the services. We'll call the API here. Await get chat response with the new messages and the session ID. So in our case was the the selected model and messages and the session. We don't need session ID, model name and the messages. So we'll say selected model string. Pass in from the selected model from the component. Selected model, it won't take a small string. Let me check. We'll type model. So now we'll get the model here. So we'll say selected model dot name. Right. So we need to get this response, and let's see what it says. Model or null, right? So even if we pass anything, it won't take it. We need to change the props of the chat session. We'll say model or null. Save it. The error is gone. So now selected model. Yeah, let's console once. So now you can see in the log that we have 3 messages, but we are facing CORS issue. So let's see what is the response. We passed in the data with the model, and preview is fine. Okay. Everything is response is coming undefined. So let's check what is going on here. When we go to, okay, I think we have, oh, we forgot to return the response. Alright, so let's now create our reader. We'll create a new reader instance. If not reader, we will throw a new error, no reader found. We'll create a decoder. We will create a new text decoder with UTF-8. We'll create a readable stream rate result. We'll initiate text content as empty string as start. And we'll say while chunk is PD and it's not done, append the decoded chunk to our text content string. Keep appending while the stream result is not done, right? So the text content will have our entire result, and let's say we'll split the decoded chunk and we'll say until the split string is not empty string, we'll filter all the lines which are, so now for every line that we are getting, we'll convert that string to JSON. We'll do it by parsing JSON, parsing the string, and if the type of text to JSON is object and if it is not null, we will be keeping on appending that. So let's create a try catch. We'll say we'll get the content and we will try to get our content from this, and then we will append it the stream to text. We'll create a catch. If any error is coming, we'll parse that error. Right, so it's throwing error. Let's see, signed but never used. Okay, so once we got that text content, if the length is greater than 0, then return the text content. Else, return sorry, please try again. Right? Let's take this. save, right? So let's try that. Can you teach me Spanish? So we got the response now, right? So the stream result will show, but in log you can see the entire response because we are stringing, attaching, like concatenating the string. So let's say as AI response. If the response message is greater than 0, then we will set that message into our messages array with the role as assistant and the message content as the response message. And then we will update that message into our session store, like local storage messages. So now you can see there this is empty. Let me try asking hola. So it will say in Spanish, right? Can you tell me what to say for good morning? Okay, so it gave me the response, right? So now we are able to chat and the chat messages are displaying fine. So let's add a loading state. We'll say if loading, then say assistant is typing. I think I messed up. Div is closed. Okay, now it looks. I think now it's fixed. So we'll give width as full. Let's try now asking something. I want to understand how to add two numbers. So you can see assistant is typing is coming, right? So you can add your own loading state like this, and after the response it will just give the response. We'll add a new package called React Markdown for customizing our response. So the response we are getting is in a Markdown format, so we'll render that using a Markdown plugin. So we'll import Markdown. Let's do that. Copy, paste. And then we will head over to our message content.trim and wrap it around, wrap Markdown around this message content.trim. We don't need P. So what will happen now is whatever is inside Markdown, it will render in using Markdown to HTML. So now you can see it's customized well. So we can add few plugins for Markdown. Let's install that. We'll add Rehype, Sanitize, and Remark GFM. So this is for security and Sanitize from Rehype Sanitize and Remark GFM from Remark GFM. Then we will go to the Markdown and add Rehype plugins and Remark plugins like this. And we'll say single tilde false. So now one more thing we want to do is if it's loading, the chat is syncing, then we want to add the thinking animation, which we can create a new component for that. We'll say uploading.tsx. We'll import this here and copy the options. We'll create the component uploading, or say chat loading. Then we'll create a div. Inside that div, we will add the view. So we need user.d and then our view, and we will export that default. That's it. So let's now rename this as chat loading and import this in our app chat. So we'll remove the current one and import it directly using app loading. Sorry, chat loading. So here you can directly add chat loading, and now if I ask him something, while it will load, it should show the animation like this. That's pretty cool. If I show you in dark mode, let me ask more. Okay, multiplication. Now it is showing assistant. You can see it's thinking, right? Cool. So that's it. So now you can see I can toggle the sidebar. So in this we will say, for our chat history, we will fetch all our chat sessions using use effect. We'll get all the sessions from local storage. We'll go to sessions and add new function, get all sessions from local storage. We'll import this function. Once we get all the sessions, we'll set all sessions as sessions, else. So we need to create the sessions here, all sessions, new state, empty array. This will be session array. Let's import session type and session array. So sessions, we will see session array and set all sessions as empty. So sessions, we need to set this as session array as well. So it returns session. So now if we go back to app sidebar, all sessions we can loop it using map. For each session, or you can say chat session, I'll create a sidebar menu item. I'll just copy still sidebar menu item, or else we'll create a new component itself. Let's say app sidebar history menu item, right? So this will be our menu item for that history. So we'll paste this in this return, and we want is for this we want the title. Actually, we'll get the entire session. We need to pass the session. So let's say app sidebar menu with key as session ID and chat session as chat session or session. Sorry. This will take the session and with this session, let's say session. With this session, we can get the. Let's create a fragment. Actually, we'll wrap this session using our rank router link, and say for each lake we will pass it to, like navigate it into that particular chat session. So this will be wrapped into link. We don't need the fragments, we'll delete this. So now plugin installed, so it's showing errors. You won't be getting that, don't worry. So we'll pass in the session ID as key. We have the title, so we'll remove this and say session.title, or we will pass in if it is title, otherwise it will be a new chat. Session.title, right? So for now, if there is no title, it will show new chat, otherwise title. So new chat, I can say chat a random number. So chat 1234 for example, or it can be any number, but it kind of will throw a decimal. So what I'm going to do is instead of new chat, then we will click I'm just trying to find new chat where I've created that. Yeah, here. So when we are creating a new chat session, we can give a name, random number, random, and since we don't want a decimal, we'll say 2 fixed with 2 dot 2 string dot slice. So basically it will give us a number. So if I click on start new session, you can see chat 99. If I press again, it will say chat 6. Though it's not reflecting in history, I can reload and it will show. So let's create a new function, and for that I'll create a new app sidebar menu item dot tsx, move all that code, whatever we wrote, shift it into its own component and export this. So let me just import whatever is required. We might need sidebar menu items and all this in like chat scene elements. So let's copy this, paste, copy link, paste, copy session, get session storage, paste, message square icon, copy this entire thing, paste. I don't need this. I don't need this. We need drop down menu, copy this, paste. We need button, copy button. Where is it? 17. Yeah, paste. Priority rate this, no use. Save it, and we will import our own component. App, sidebar history, menu item. Like this, we'll use this component here. I think name changed. Anyway, so it's complaining. So let me just rename it. Save it. So we can delete or comment this code. So let's see. Chat 99 session ID. If I delete this, save it, and rename one of it. Oh, I haven't added rename, right? So let's do that. So on click of that, let's create a new function and the rename. So this function's job is to able to make our menu item rename or the title change. So let's inspect what we get when we click on that rename. It's working. So we'll create a new component, app sidebar, app rename, chat modal.tsx. We'll export this return. We'll import the dialogues, whatever is required, header, title, footer from our UI. Okay, I think we need to install from ChatScene. We haven't installed it, so let's do that. It's not there. Let's go to ChatScene, search dialog. Not this dialog. Let's copy and install it. One file created, import that. So we'll import button input, label, okay, label also we need, so we'll install that as well. So let's copy this footer rename, right? So it created a dialog with rename chat and chat title. Let's customize this a bit. Let's add label, install that dependency, so label error will be stopped. So now let's add our grid calls. So this will be in the center, right? And input, we will say like we need to get the new title right from the user, so we'll set a new state, so new title, say it empty string. So when the model will open, we need a boolean for toggling, and on close for closing that, get the title, and on rename and the session ID. So we'll create a new interface for app name, rename chat dialog prompts. So we'll say when the model will be closed, it will call the onClose function, and the value will be new title, and on change of this input, we'll set new title. And say autofocus is true. And we'll say handle rename. We'll create a new function. If new title.rem is empty, not empty, then we will call the rename function and close method. We'll get the title. Do we need the title? Yeah, we'll set it as the new initial state so that when dialog opens, it will show the title. So that looks good. We'll go back to our sidebar, import our, not here actually. Yeah, we can import it here. So we'll in this app sidebar, we'll import the dialog. We'll pass in a fragment so that both will be in a single component. It says missing is open, so we'll pass it as open, and on close we will call our, we'll create a new state. Set renaming chat, and this will be session or null. On close, it will set the renaming chat session like state as null, and we'll pass in the session title as renaming chat.title, and we will call handle rename function or whenever rename callback is called, and we'll pass in the session ID. We will say that whenever renaming chat is set and it is not empty, we will open this dialog or we will show this dialog. We'll need to create handle rename function. So let's create new title session ID, right? So using handle rename, whenever rename will be called, this will be triggered. So we'll get the current session using the session ID. So we'll have that object. So if current session we found, we will call the new session with the new title and update the session and set all our sessions again and set renaming chat to the particular chat session, right? So we'll go to sessions and create a new update chat session function, which will take in the session ID, title with the session data. I'll go back to app sidebar, update chat session. We can import it like this. Right, so when we are updating the title, it's setting this renaming chat, and for rename we will get a new callback on rename. Right, so on rename function we will be calling with the session ID. If session, then we will say on rename, on rename session ID. So session ID is a string, so we'll have to pass as props session ID as string. So we'll create a new interface. On rename, we'll call in this function handle rename session, right, which will trigger when we call rename, and this will call that function. So we'll call the same function here also. Set renaming chat is null, right? So we will say set renaming chat, we can pass it as our use state, so that from our menu item we can directly set our renaming chat with that particular session, so that whenever that session will be set, it will automatically open the dialog, and our dialog will then trigger the handle session, rename session, right? So now if I go and close, button is black. Let's see what is wrong. Host, I think we have to change it from host to, let's put it gray 200. So now it's black, right? Cool. Let's now rename. Let's give it test 134. Rename. It shows test 134, right? So it's working fine. If I reload, it's working fine. Everywhere title is showing correct. Good. If I go and change 123, it will again rename. That is also working fine. Let's go back to sidebar. We will create a new function, say truncate chat title. So in our menu item, if the title is more, we need to truncate it. So if session, let's create it in here only. Session dot, we'll get the title max length as 15. If title dot length is greater than max length, then return title dot substring 0 comma max length and then dot dot dot, or else return the title itself. So we'll wrap it into this title. If it is less than 15, it will not use that function at all. So now app.tsx, we don't need the session here. Later on we'll bring all the sessions to the app level, but for now we are doing it in sidebar level. Let's do it like this only. So let's say learning Spanish. Right now, we will call the renaming chat session. Rename and autofocus. We'll add a when we are like what we will do is whenever we press enter, it should rename, right? We don't have to click submit. So when we enter, it should do it. So let's create a handle key down event. Function that will check if the event is enter, it will directly call the rename function. So type is keyboard event. And say learning Spanish, enter. Now it works and you can see dot dot dot, right? So that's rename. That is looking fine. Cool. So in our sidebar, we can directly call a new function handle dialog close. So rename dialog close. We'll create this function here. Handle renaming dialog close. We'll set the chat session here, and we'll directly refresh the entire page or reload the entire page, so that whatever title changes happens, it will automatically take it and refresh in our history, right? So this looks good now. So everything is looking great. We have light dark mode. We have rename functionality working. Let's see chat one. Now we'll create our parameter sidebar, setting sidebar. So let's add all the states required. So we need so I'm just adding all the setting parameters that we can tweak in the model. So you can just use whatever you want, but for now I'm using temperature, max length, top key, top P, frequency penalty, presence penalty, num predict, and the stop sequence that we will be passing as the options. So we'll create a parameters or like object and pass in all the states with the data, with the keys, the value. So these parameters will have the final state data for all our individual states. Right, so set parameters done. So let's say when we are changing anything, we will update our temperature. And we'll create a new component parameter settings, and we will create a toggle for right side open sidebar open, and we'll also create an active right sidebar panel. So there will be multiple panels in the right sidebar, so we can tweak that panel based on the string that we pass. So for example, for now we will have parameters in null. So we'll pass in the toggle state is open and all the parameter values, and the state itself, so that we can directly from the inside of parameter settings we can directly set the state to our top level component. So now everything we have set. Let's go to components and create a new app right sidebar folder inside this parameter settings.tsx. In this we'll create a return parameter settings. So this will get all the params and put it into a new interface. Parameter settings props. Get this, we'll use this here, and we'll say if not open return null. We'll import the parameter settings in the app.tsx, and you can see if I pass in as true there will be a side panel. We will toggle is right sidebar open. Create a new function, and when if it is set it will toggle the sidebar with is right sidebar open, and if not is right sidebar open then we'll set the panel as null. We'll create a new component right sidebar menu which will have all the menu items for the right sidebar. So we'll pass in the toggle modal details function settings. So this will be the callback for whenever we say open settings, it will call a function open settings, and this will set is right sidebar open as true. and we'll set the parameters as active right path, right? So we will create a new file, right sidebar menu.tsx. We'll say right sidebar menu return we'll create this div. We'll create a button. When we say on click of this button, it will open parameter settings. We'll pass in sync, and this will be click, let's say settings. We'll import our app site right menu, and pass is openness, that is fine. We'll see a settings button. So we'll import slider horizontal. We'll import all the toggle settings, and when we click on that, we'll like pass the on open settings, which will toggle our right sidebar and set parameters. And we'll set toggle sidebar. So this will be another button that we will use to show our toggle button. So this will be used for closing and opening. We'll import chevron right, chevron left. So now you can toggle it. Go to our parameter settings, go type width 64, give a border with gray color, and dark border 700 like this, and background as gray 500. Let's make it dark, background zinc 700, make it 100, let's make it 800, yeah, 900, yeah, this looks great. Cool. We'll say create a new div, some padding, border, we'll give a title, parameter settings. Dark mode, it looks good. So now we will import scroll area from our chat scene. We'll say scroll area, and height will be calculated dynamically. And inside that, some padding. We can see the temperature. And the label. So you can see temperature now. So we're gonna be using the temperature. Like this. So it will give the value of the existing temperature. And import a slider to help us change the slider value. Sorry, temperature. We'll go to ChatGPT, search slider and install it. We'll pass in the min-max steps and value, and on value change we'll update set temperature with the new value and give a value 0, default value with 0.8. Now if we go, we have a slider that we can change. Similarly, we will add some description of temperature, like it will explain the user what it will do. If we go to Ollama docs, we will go to model file. We can go to parameter. Here you will find the table with all the options. So here we will paste these options. Similarly, what I'll do is I'll do it for all the options. So I'll pause this video and do it. Let me just copy paste all the values. Max length. Similarly, I pasted everything now. And let's do it for others. We'll need an input value for our stop sequence. So we'll import that import from ChatGPT. So now we will need some spacing. So we'll paste where we have space y2 with p4 and space y4. That looks pretty clean now. We have frequency, we have toggle, right? So parameter settings is all done. So let's add the parameters in the chat as well, so that whenever we will change that, we'll pass into the API those parameter options, and the API will call based on the payload, right? So we'll create a parameter options interface. So this parameter options will create a default options object. Will destructure temperature, max length, and everything using our parameters, props, right? And we'll update the model parameters with the new model parameters that we received with the destructured object. So we create a new object, model parameters, with the exact option key and value that the Ollama takes. So as you can see, for frequency penalty, it takes repeat penalty as key. Num underscore predict, and stop sequences, it takes stop. So we will pass this parameters into our API service function. We will need to go here and add it as a prop also. So before that, we'll create our default parameters. With the default value. So top P, let's give it 0.95, repeat penalty 1.1, num predict 1024, stop as empty string, right? So this default parameters we can directly get it from our parameters, which we will get it from the props. So we'll add it the props here, parameters, comma, that will be parameters type, parameter props. We'll create a new interface. With the default parameters as optional. If nothing is passed, it will take the default parameters, right? So this will be our API call, the options. So now whenever we will change, if I change it to 7 and save all this, and if I try to hit the API now with the response, you can see, if I go to payload, you can see the changed value 0.7, right? So that looks good. Let's do some cleaning. So let's now create our stream text. Basically, whenever we chat, right? How it works in streaming is we will manipulate our text such that it will look like it's streaming. So we'll create a hook for this. We'll say use stream text, the new string, and we will give a default default number that will tell what should be the speed of the text stream. So we'll create some state stream text and index. Initialize index as 0. If index is greater than the length of the string, then this loop will uh, run. So basically, what will happen now is once we import this, we'll create a new streaming text.tsx, and this will create our streaming text component. We will use the hook here, use stream text. So we will pass in 30, and we will export default the stream text. This will be string. We'll pass this here, save. We'll import the stream text in our app chat session, and wherever we are using role as assistant, and if the message is last one, then we will use uh, we will use markdown, and if it is last message, first one is for not last message. If the message is assistant, and if it is last message, and if it is loading, then we will say we'll create a loading skeleton.tsx. We'll call this loading skeleton. In this, we will import skeleton from chat scene. Like this. So we'll import this loading skeleton here, and if last message is the assistant and it's not loading, it's not emptying, then show the message. And message content dot string. Then we'll use the streaming text with passing the streaming content. Right, so this will be our streaming component. That we will save it, and let's now check it. Okay, now it's working fine. You can see the chat is streaming. Thanks for introducing. It's thinking and it's giving the result. That's so cool, right? We'll create a scroll to bottom so that whenever the chat is giving response, it will automatically go down to the bottom of the chat. So we'll create a ref to catch the scroll, and when we load it, it should automatically go to the bottom. We'll set a new state is generating as false, and when we submit, this is generating will be true, and finally after submit, it should update the chat, set the loading, and will catch this error And finally, this should set is generating as false, right? So is generating, we will use it. So now you can see scroll is not happening. Let's see why. So I think we need to get the scroll container. We will use scroll area ref dot current, and we will use the query selector. Let's go to inspect element to check what is the scroll container. We'll use React. Okay, we can use not this one. Yeah, this one, area viewport. We'll use it here. That's it. So now whenever it will, you can see it's automatically scrolling to the bottom, right? Cool. Let's now create our app model details settings. So we'll create a new file, model sidebar details sidebar. In this, we will copy the width 64, right? Model details, save, and in our app right sidebar menu, we need to create one more button, and we will use open model details. We'll say variant as ghost, size as icon, on click, on open modal details, title model details, class name 800, and we'll pass in an info icon, right? So you can see information. So on open model details, we will be triggering the open of the right sidebar menu item again, but this will open the details panel. So on open model details, set as right sidebar menu open as true, and is right sidebar panel as details in this case. So we'll add details in our params as additional string. We will set the is active panel as details. So now we can toggle our panels based on the is active panel. Let's do that. Active right panel, if details, then show window details, else So is sidebar open with model as selected model, so that we get to pass all the details, and we'll pass if parameters, then show the parameters component, and here we need some props. Model and is open. So model, if not open, return null. Use the same how we use for model parameter settings. Here we will just change the title, model details, right? So now if you open it, you can see model details is not working. Let's make it as details, and we need to pass model, right? So now you can toggle between the thing. If details dot model, so basically we'll get the model. So we'll have to import model details. So model details is a JSON that I created locally. So I'm pausing this video and pasting all the model details, and we will import that model details. So model details is nothing but for a particular selected model we get some information like description and what the name of the model is, what's its usage, and etc, etc. So we can show these details in the sidebar so that user knows what this model does or what is used as. More information about it. So we'll use scroll area. And add some description. If model, then we will get the name of that model and put this inside that. Else return no model selected. Right, save it. Now we will see the details. Like if I'm selected llama, it will show llama. If I select some other model, DeepSeek coder, it's showing DeepSeek coder, right? We can add more description of the features. So this is all custom, so you can add manually anything. So model details is done. We have dark mode, light mode, model details working. We have toggle. Let's clean up. Streaming text, what we'll do is we'll add markdown in the streaming text so that whenever it streams, it uses markdown. And we'll import that here. Delete it. Save this. So now we have the perfect app ready, right? The V1 is done. So you can see we have toggle, we have dark mode, light mode, we have model details page, we have model selection drop down, DeepSeek coder. If I select it, will be able to select the parameters of your choice. You can see the history. Let's go to dark mode.
And that's it. In just a few steps, you're ready to harness the power of this amazing open source large language models right from the comfort of your computer. If you found this tutorial helpful, don't forget to smash the like button and hit subscribe for more dev hacks, and let me know in the comments what model you are excited to try first. Thank you guys. See you soon.